Okay, welcome back to the stream. So today we are going to pick up where we left off yesterday. We're going to look at how our memory is doing, and then we have a few other things that we are going to look at today. So one of the things we really want to get to is we want to start integrating stuff such that we can use this workbench for doing real work. And so one of the problems that I'm having right now is that I'm actually terribly behind with doing shorts and all sorts of other things. So today we'll be looking at building out a integration for Opus Pro. This is the tool that I'm using for clipping. Maybe this will work out, or maybe we will learn something about what we should add or change in the workbench to get things working well. Let's bring up the work we've done. So here's the workbench as we left it yesterday with a few more things. So these were, if you recall, we did a small demo yesterday with agent-to-agent communication. We've improved the voice system a bit. And then since yesterday, Claude has been working on building out a memory tab for us. So now whatever's happening in memory should appear here somehow, some way. And I don't know if this is actually working, because I think the chat should remember what I'm called, but I don't see that here. So let's check that out, see if that's actually working out. Hey, do you remember what I'm called?
Let me check what I have remembered. I can't check memory right now because the memory store is failing to migrate. So I don't know what you're called from here.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard that. I had not adjusted the sound correctly, but basically the memory is failing at the moment. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. When I tried to check memory, it failed with a storage migration error, so I can't read remembered details like your name right now.
Okay, is there anything you can do to diagnose what the problem is?
I'll run a system diagnosis and inspect the memory app state. The diagnosis confirms the memory calls themselves are failing, not just my recall query. The specific error points to a database migration trying to create an index on a missing column named residency. The general system diagnosis also noticed keyboard focus issues because the console is open. But that is separate from the memory storage problem.
How cool is that? We're getting a system that can self-diagnose. I feel really good about this. Even if we have some hiccups here, I think this is genuinely a great step in the right direction. So let's see if we can get Claude to fix this, and then the memory should be ready to do stuff. Then in the meantime, let me just finish some work that I'm doing on my laptop. So usually what happens is that in the evening, I'm sitting and doing work on my laptop, and then in the morning, it needs to go back onto my stationary machine. And I normally never get to the point where I actually get this back into my stationary machine before the live stream, because I have so many last minute changes to do to it. But I have some really cool stuff here as well. So one of the things I've been working on is a UI workbench that we want to have inside the system. So this is nearly always one of the first things I do when I have to design a new feature is think about what does the UI look like. And so for that reason, we're building out a workbench we can use, and more importantly, which the AI can use in order to do the things that we need to do in order to create great designs. Another project we started on some time ago was our macOS YouTube comment overlay. We didn't get too far with that one yet, but that's one thing we can pick up while we're doing the other things, because this is going to take a little bit of time. So I'm actually curious where we are with this. All right, let's check out if that's up running and works as it should. Okay, we need to change the right directory and then run it again. So the memory issue should be fixed now. Let's try to restart and see if this is working the way it should. Where did my terminal go? Here. All right, we have it up running, so we're going to test this out again. Could you check if you could recall what my name is?
I'll try memory.
Please try again.
I'll check memory one more time. It worked again. I found the same remembered claim. Your name is Trolls.
All right, our memory is back online. Let's check. Yeah, and we now see a memory set of entries here. Okay, so one thing that, oh, that's wrong. We're not building fastcodes.io. We're building Wonop. This is our YouTube overlay we're building out. So that's a different program that we're running. And mostly one I just built for fun. But today we're building wonop.com. We're just updating that. And if I move over here, you'll see that we have the overlay where we're waiting for messages. And hopefully if I would drop a message in the chat, you should be able to see it. So let's try that out. And there you go. So that one was dropped in the Discord and is now appearing here. So I think this works rather nicely. We might want to still make some adjustments to it, but I think this is pretty nice. So when people come into the stream, we can now see who is sending messages and when. So there'll be a bigger chance that I don't miss people's messages. Okay, so back to the memory. As you could see, we are at a point where it does have entries now. We have the pages, the wiki pages, we have some self-claims and all of that. I feel like that the UI here could be a lot better and we should work on that. But for now, this is good enough that we can get an overview and just see that it seems to work. And I think we're going to just accept this as working and then we will work on from there and improve it. That will be the way to go. Let's just test something else. What else do you have in your memory?
I'll inspect the current memory entries. There are 2 live memory claims in this workspace. One says your name is Trolls. The other is just a manual memory self test claim from earlier. Nothing is contested. And there are no resident always in prompt memories.
Could you try to ask Amber what she's up to and where she's at?
I'll check whether Amber is available and send her that question. I sent the question to Amber. She is running as a Claude coding agent in this workspace, and the message was handed over to her.
I think you got a response.
I'll check for Amber's reply now. I found Amber's reply. I'll mark that message as handled. Amber says she's idle and deliberately holding. Birch stood her down after a read. Only investigation into 1-300 converged. So nothing is currently in flight. Her main findings were: the ticket target is ambiguous. The old workbench task engine has been removed. The inbox already has a cheaper scheduling path using deferred events and a sweeper. And there's a separate user-facing issue because the live prompt still mentions wm.tasks, even though those methods no longer exist. The open questions are product decisions. Whether 1-300 means the workbench planner or an inbox event path. Whether scheduled items should merely appear or actually trigger. Whether recurrence is in scope, and what should happen if something comes due while
Okay,
Wonop is
let me
closed.
stop you right there. So I would like you to ask Amber whether she has access to 1, the memory, and 2, access to the app. So could she access Linear, for instance?
I'll ask Amber whether she can access memory and apps like Linear. I sent that capability check to Amber, and it was handed over to her.
So let's just give the system agent a second here. So one of the things we want to test is whether it wakes by itself. I think that functionality is still not working the way it should. But let's just give it another 10-20 seconds. It might be that it's a bit slow. You received a message from Amber. Did you also receive a wake-up call to actually check that message?
I'll check the recent inbox events and whether any of them requested a wake. No, Amber's reply to system arrived as a pending message, but its wake flag is false. The message I sent to Amber had wake true. So she was woken to answer. Her reply back did not request a wake for me to check it.
Okay, what does she reply?
I'll read Amber's pending reply and then mark it handled. Amber says yes to both. Directly. For memory, she says she has direct access to the shared workbench memory bank, and also her own private Claude Code project memory. She checked the shared memory for this ticket and found no relevant hits. And she has not written anything because demo mode forbids writes. For apps, she says yes, including Linear. She says she already used Linear directly during the 1-300 investigation to read the ticket and related issue cluster. She has read access and also has write-capable Linear tools, but she has avoided writes under demo mode. She also says she has direct access to other tools like GitHub issues, GitLog shell, Claude and Codex session control, epidemic sound, window arrangement, and messaging.
Excellent. Could you tell her to update the Linear ticket so she has explicit permission to do writes now? So the findings that she found around the task at hand, could she update the Linear tickets with all the questions she has and all of the things we need to answer so we can get that right?
I'll tell Amber she has explicit permission to write to Linear and ask her to update the relevant tickets. I pass that on to Amber with explicit permission to write to Linear. The message was handed over, and I asked her to report back with exactly what she changed and any ticket IDs.
Okay, cool. And so you see, after I've added my name into the system, it actually now talks about me specifically with the other agent, which is kind of cool. Did she finish the task?
I'll check whether Amber has replied with the linear update results. Yes, she finished it. Amber created a new linear issue. 1305 for the stale WM.tasks prompt and policy problem. And she commented on 1300 with the investigation findings and open product questions. She left 1300's description unchanged because the wording is part of what needs clarification. She filed 1305 separately because it is an independent user facing bug. She did not touch 1302, 1303, or 1304. 2 notes, the linear comment is attributed to your account because that's the API key being used. And 1300's title has already been corrected from ONEUP to WONOP by someone else, not Amber.
Okay, cool. Now we need to create a few more tickets. So you noted that there was some issue with that you didn't get woken up the right way. We need a ticket to record that. Could you add that? And add as much detail as you can about what the issue is and what you have experienced.
I'll create a linear ticket describing the missing wake, up on agent replies. I created 1306 for the missing wake, up on agent replies. It records both observed cases, the exact inbox event IDs, the user visible call experience, expected behavior, and acceptance criteria.
Okay, cool. Next, we also need a ticket for creating a Opus.Pro integration. Could you create that ticket, please?
I'll create a linear ticket for an Opus.Pro integration.
Cool. So I think we are soon getting to a point where I
I
would be able
created
to do
one
this.
307 for the Opus Pro integration. It includes the goal: initial scope questions, API authentication unknowns, and acceptance criteria for scoping or implementation.
Could you please research all of the stuff that needs to be done for the Opus Pro integration? So rather than doing it yourself, hand that off to Amber, ask her to do a full research on what do we need to do, what APIs are available, and all of that for Opus, and then update the ticket with all the relevant information, including what open questions we still have.
I'll hand the Opus Pro research and ticket update to Amber. I handed that research task to Amber. She has explicit permission to write to 307 in linear, and I asked her to report back with exactly what she changed and the key conclusions.
So I think we're pretty soon getting to a point where I would be able to operate this whole system while working out on my rig in the background. And I'm really looking forward for that, because once we get to that point, we can move a lot faster and do a lot more in, just making it a whole lot more fun to do development and live streams and all of that. So I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And I'm pretty sure that once you see some of the other integrations we're going to do, so once we have the UI workbench in here and we have the browser and all of that up running, I think you'll start to see how this becomes much more of a workplace for you and your agent, rather than just another fancy demo of how to operate your agents. Cool. While we're doing that research, we need another thing. Could you create a ticket for making wake words actually work? So what I want to be able to say your name, and that should wake up the chat between us or the call between us, such that you actively start listening. And then we should have a sleep mode again, where you're just waiting for the wake word to be called.
I'll create a linear ticket for wake, word listening, and sleep mode. I created one 308 for wake, word activation, and sleep mode. It captures saying Jenny to wake the chat or call, returning to sleep mode, state indication privacy and cost questions, and acceptance criteria.
All right, that's great. I think Amber got back to you. Could you just have a look at what she's saying?
I'll check Amber's latest reply now. Amber says the Opus Pro research is complete, and 1-307 has been updated with a comment. She did not create extra tickets. Her key conclusions are: the integration is technically feasible. Opus Pro has a real REST API with bearer auth. Open API docs, SDKs, and endpoints for projects, clips, transcripts, collections, social posting, thumbnails, censored jobs, and brand templates.
Okay,
The likely real block
that's all fine.
is commercial.
Let's do something else. I would like you to create a ticket for our linear extension. So the linear extension should be doing markdown rendering of the ticket content. So when you view the details, you don't get the markdown rendered, and that is suboptimal. Hey there, FSD driver. How are you doing today?
I'll create a linear ticket for markdown rendering in the linear extension. I created 1-309 for rendering markdown in the linear extension's ticket detail view. I kept it scoped as a small UI Polish ticket.
Nice. And then we need another ticket for refactoring the UI for the linear extension. So right now the UI seems a bit researchy and not very polished, and we need to update that.
I'll create a linear ticket for polishing the linear extension UI. I created 1-310 for polishing and refactoring the linear extension UI, separate from the markdown rendering ticket.
Okay, then we have another issue. That is that when the console is down, the canvas is not moving things around correctly. And so you can't really use the user interface properly there. We need to fix that as well. So create another ticket for that, please.
I'll create a ticket for the layout issue when the console is down. I created 1-311 for the layout problem when the console is hidden or down. It records the usability issue, expected viewport recalculation, likely areas to investigate, and acceptance criteria.
All right, nice. I think that will be it for now.
Sounds good. I'll stop here.
So I think we are ready to merge this into develop. We do have some oh wait. Yes. We do have some evidence that the memory piece is working the way that we want it to work. And basically at this point, I think let's just get this in. Cool. And we have the next feature that's landing on develop coming in. So let's try that out. And while that's coming up, let's bring this one to an end. All right, let's test this out. So the new tool we are having is that we should have a design bench. I see this one actually comes with some examples already. That it was not supposed to do. Okay, so the key idea here is that we want to be able to design our applications, and the way we are doing that is we want to be able to do the UI before we do anything else. And so for that reason, we've created a design bench where you have the basic layout here, and then you have sub-screens that you can fill in. And so one of the things we really want to achieve here is to get to a point where you can iterate the actual UI that you're trying to do really quick before you start doing any of the other things. And then that will help inform what does our API need to look like, what does various bits and pieces need to look like. And so one of the things we should try out now is, I haven't really tried this in much detail, I just asked Claude to implement it, but one thing I did see this morning is if I go to mobile mode, this doesn't really work. Hey, so in the design workbench, I've added a couple of comments on things we need to update. Could you go through those annotations and just update the current designs such that we fix those things?
I'll inspect the design bench annotations and see what can be updated. I found the Design Bench app. I'll read its annotations directly now. I found 2 open mobile annotations. I'll inspect the current design HTML so I can apply them. I'll locate the design files so I can update the dashboard version safely. I need permission to list the local design files so I can find and update the dashboard HTML.
I've given you permission.
I'll continue locating the design files now. I'll look inside the installed Design Bench app and state folders for the dashboard HTML. I'll read the dashboard design version file and update it for the mobile menu behavior. I'll inspect the shared app shell template because the annotated menu and TOPB AR are there. I'll update the app shell with a mobile menu button and auto, hidden rail. Then resolve those annotations.
So I think we need to do a few tweaks to the voice at some point because it has a few words that it mispronounces. So for instance, mobile becomes mobile. And also I noticed yesterday that when it was supposed to say lives, it says lives. And I mean, technically it's not incorrect.
That update call used the wrong argument shape. So I'll retry it with the app's expected fields.
There are scenarios where we need a different pronunciation, but really it shouldn't be the default.
The app's publish command is hitting a design bench bug. So I'll update the design file directly and refresh the board.
Could you also create a linear ticket for all the bugs that you're encountering and just making sure that we have recorded the things that we need to improve in order for this to work? It seems like you're hitting a lot of small bottlenecks. And so we need to get this app to a point where it's working super well and really, really easy to work with. So please create those tickets.
I'll check the waiting inbox items and handle anything relevant. I'll record the bottlenecks I hit as linear tickets and clear the relevant inbox items.
Hey Mem, how are you doing today? So we are testing out a few different extensions. So we've been creating linear tickets this morning. Also, right now we are checking out our design workbench.
I started creating the bottleneck tickets and clearing the relevant inbox items. But that run is still finishing in the background. I'll report the ticket IDs when it completes.
So we are testing out our design workbench, which is basically...
I'll check the inbox for the background ticket, creation result. The background run finished. I'll read its result and clear that inbox item.
So I think we need to just turn her down a bit while I explain what we're doing here. So we have been testing our linear integration, just creating tickets for things we know we need to address. And then yesterday evening, I built out a small design bench. So this is based off a templating system that's similar to Jinja, where we can do the app shell. So we have this, the shell here itself, right? And then we have sub pages within that shell. So we just extend things. Then we can create annotations for these designs. And so the idea here is that we should be able to create a design first before we start coding away. And so we want to do designs, we want to do specs, and we want to do all of those things. And just making sure that all of that is up running. And I can see subsequently that my YouTube widget does not pick up all of the messages. So there was supposed to come a little message down here in the corner, but that didn't. So that's where we're at with everything. And we've been running a little bit of testing of all of it, but it's all coming nicely into shape. How are you doing today? Yes, I'm going to sell this as a product. Right now, it's not quite ready for shipping yet. As I said yesterday, I was hoping to start shipping it on Monday. The first licenses are going to be $99, and then we're slowly ramping the price up to $300 as the whole thing becomes better and more tested and everything. But early birds gets a huge discount. So actually, we already have the landing page up for it. Let me show you here. If you go to wonop.com, you'll see that we have the whole landing page up here, and we don't have any real screenshots of what this is, not yet. So that's one of the things on my to-do list is to make nice demos of what we're doing and just add them in here. But what does work is that we can take payment already, right? So if you go all the way down to this, you can actually get the lifetime license now for $99. The only downside to that is I haven't packaged and shipped the app yet, so we're not quite ready for people to buy, but you can if you want. Also, for people interested in partnerships and beta access and all of this, we have this contact form where if you feel that this could be something that could be fun for you to work with, you can request access and you can request integration, partnerships, and all of that. So all of that is coming in place. So though this will be selling this ID, and right, okay. And so you're asking about how I made the $350. Is that the question? So just to be clear, what we're working on here is a new product. Previous sales are coming from fastcoach.io. So that's this one here, where you can train your digital avatar. And the other one is then we also have some sales from Compound Coders, which is all about making AI trustworthy again and how to actually use AI for doing great engineering work. So that's where the early sales are coming from. And then I have another thing in the pipeline, which is basically a consulting agreement, which will be a much larger ticket sale. And I'm really looking forward for that one to land. Hopefully that will begin next week. And that should bring the ARR up by about 5,000. Okay, I don't know Nexa. Let me have a look at that. Oh, yay. My messages are working. Ah, you just bought today. Wait, do you have a link you could drop in the Discord channel? Love to see what you've bought. All right, we have some questions to ask here, or to answer here. Add missing trailers. Great. Yeah, please do that. Just fix it. So we're just about to land the memory feature. Once that's in, we are going to move on to integrating Opus.Pro. So that's really the task for today. And so the reason for this is if I go to Opus.Pro, you'll see here that, wait, is that here? I have a backlog of a gazillion live streams that all has a ton of small clips, and I haven't actually looked at any of them or done anything with them. So I want my agent to be able to help me with this, because right now I feel like I'm falling behind on scheduling things for social media. And so probably what we should do Monday is integrate PostBridge. I think that will be the thing we'll be doing on Monday. Yeah, no worries about that. Just drop it in the chat and I'll have a look. Always curious to see what people are finding interesting and learn. Software that builds software. Oh, I like this landing page. 37 days, 49 ones, never a subscription. Yeah, the landing page is super nice. Right, that actually looks kind of similar, doesn't it? I was sold on one thing, many terminal and chats, and it can access my computer. Like agent and everything interconnected. Yeah, I completely get that. That is a really nice feature. I tried to make it, but mine had a canvas. I'm not. Could you explain what you mean? I don't understand. Ah, you mean you tried to make a similar app, but yours had a canvas. Cool. Well, that looks really cool. Definitely. I can just say like order from Amazon and it does it. Oh, pretty cool. I should check that out. Definitely. Four panels of the same window. Every screen below is the build that ships it today. This seems to be for Windows, or it also runs on Mac. All right, let's check this out if it did the things it should. So we created some tickets. Let's just try something here. It runs on Mac and Windows, and I don't think it runs on Linux. Okay, cool. See, jump back here and bring linear back. So one thing we probably want to have here is a search bar. So for humans, this UI is not really very optimal. Bloody hell. But yours is nice. It's on React, not on Electron. This one is on Electron. Yeah, there are minor differences. I'm not sure how much of a difference that makes to how things are working at this point. I mean, it might be slightly more reactive when written in Rust, but you can do nice things with Electron for sure. And it allows you to move fast. No doubt about it. And I think at the end of the day, what matters more than just the tech stack that you're using is your distribution. Right? This is still one of the hard things and one of the things that I'm working on to figure out. What do people actually, how do we actually reach people for these kind of things? Could you remind me, what ticket number does the Opus work have?
I'll look up the recent linear tickets for the office-related work. The office proximity work appears to be the canceled one, 275.
No, I meant Opus, OPUS.pro.
The Opus.pro integration ticket is 1-307. Create Opus.pro integration for Wonop. Amber already researched it and added her findings as a comment there.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that one of the things that I'm really trying to get to here is when you're using computer control with the regular kind of ways of doing that, what happens is that the agents actually become super slow at doing things. And so I'm hoping by making a system that has semantic understanding of what you're trying to do, so basically semantic window understanding, I hope that we'll get to a system that's much faster and much easier to work with. And hopefully by Monday, we should be able to move all of our work into Wonop. It feels like we're getting very close. one thing I wanted to check is there any tickets on creating or making the work trees work nicely inside of Wonop?
I'll search linear for WORKTREE, related tickets in Wonop. I only found one weak match. 251, about cargo workspace structure. And it is already done. I did not find an existing ticket for making Git WORKTREES work nicely inside Wonop.
Okay, cool. Could you create a new linear ticket saying that we need to test and make sure that work trees and all the JIT related work is working nicely and intuitively inside of Wonop?
I'll create a linear ticket for testing and polishing WORKTREE and Git workflows in Wonop. I created 315 for testing and polishing Git WORKTREE workflows inside Wonop. It covers creation, switching deletion, branch states, app and agent working directories, UX questions, and follow-up bug filing.
Did you take into account that linear JIT and other tools are extensions? All right, yes, you did. So they are marked as packages, so that's fine. Okay, I think this is good.
Yes, I included that apps and agents launched inside a WORKTREE workspace should use the correct folder.
Okay, I have noticed some issues with new IDE that people are creating a cost more per token count in one chat cause they brute force goals per chat. Yeah, this is one of the things that I'm working pretty hard on making sure that we are having quite efficient chats. Right, so one of the things we are implementing here, and I think you were here yesterday when we were working on it, is we have implemented what's called observational memory. And so the whole idea here is to take a large chunk of work and compact it down into a single statement that can then be unfolded if we want to do that. And then once you have a large chunk of statements, we're going to further compact those ones into into another single statement. So that's what's called the reflector. And we have the first version running of this. At some point, I do need to get a benchmark in here. And oh wait, that's in the branch that's currently being merged. So it's not in yet, but we have the work over here on. So we're just in the process of merging this work. And so one of the things that I want to have in the near term is basically a way of benchmarking how well are we doing on tokens? How much does it cost to run these things? Yes, and you're right. There's also something like a mind map in this, which is basically the semantic organization of these memory snips. And yeah, we have the first version of this. And one of the things that I really do want is some benchmark on how well it's performing. Because I'm a pretty firm believer that if you're fast at putting together the right context, you can get the token consumption down quite a lot. But the point is that there's that it is better than their own previous or same or worse. That's the benchmark. Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think there is a trade-off though, right? So there is a trade-off between how much extra tokens do you spend compared to how much time do you save, right? If you didn't want to spend any tokens at all, you should just do everything by hand, problem solved. But that's not what we want. So we want to have a fair trade-off between how many tokens do you spend, how much do you actually benefit from those tokens. And I think the problem is that a lot of times we end up spending a lot of tokens that we didn't need to spend, and it doesn't give any extra value. And that's really what we're trying to cut away. Oh, and it's actually good you say this, because I remember now that I have another ticket we need to record. Could you create another ticket for introducing cache into the system agent? So we don't have that at the moment, but that's something we desperately want. And together with that, we will need to do a bit of refactoring on how we provide dynamic context. So dynamic context should go into the last message in a XML tag, and then we should have cache points that go 2 messages back or something like that.
I'll create a linear ticket for adding caching to the system agent and refactoring dynamic context delivery.
Yes, exactly. So
I created one 316 for adding prompt caching to the system agent and refactoring dynamic context into a final message XML tag with deliberate cache boundaries.
yes, exactly. So I agree with you, right? So one really good example of this is if you're looking at logs from a system. Basically, what you want is you want to have the key message of those logs. You don't need all of the info logs. Basically, you want to say, okay, in these logs, we have 3 different errors, and they are located on these lines. And then you want to compact that down into the core information that you need. And this is one of the things that we definitely need to work on. Also, a lot of times doing specialized prompts for specific things, like for instance, when you're doing summaries or you're trying to search for information, you don't need to do that in the main context. So that should rather be delegated to a subtask or sub-agent, depending on what exactly the task at hand is. And so these are definitely things that we are playing around with. The other thing is, one of the key problems with MCP and tool calls is that the way that agents are operating today, they spend a lot of turns doing things. Whereas if you give them languages such as SH, or you're using Python, they do a lot more in a lot less turns. Website, web server. Context should be website, web server. Yes, yeah, exactly, right. And but with a very important caveat, right? If something is missing from the context, we need it such that you can recover that, right? So if you have said, I want you to make a website for web server that is aimed at males for specific range, say age 30 to 40, and who is located in the Caribbean or wherever, right? So then you want to be able to make it such that you can recover the information you need when you need it, such that it's still available, but it just shouldn't be there all the time. And this is exactly one of the key things we're trying to solve with the memory piece we implemented yesterday. How well it works is still something we need to start evaluating and figuring out. Cool. Okay, let's do this. Could you create another ticket? So we need to finish the onboarding flow. such that this system becomes really easy for new users to use.
I'll create a linear ticket for finishing the onboarding flow for new users. I created one 317 for finishing the new user onboarding flow. With setup, first use guidance, permissions, apps voice providers, and first task experience covered.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So this is actually one of the things I've been playing around with previously. Let's see if I can bring up a terminal here. We'll just do... I wonder if this is working the way it should. Unable to create context for CLI. Yeah, let's just check. Apps, CLI, Proto. How do I run this one again? I thought I would be able to run it. Does it run then? Okay, cool. So, oh no, that's neither it. Okay, give me a second here. So basically, I created a small command line tool way back, which is basically doing exactly what you're describing here, namely creating templates and first starting out by asking the specific questions and then deciding whether it wants to run into agent mode or it needs to do something else. And then it takes a number of turns to do what it does. And after that, you're kind of done with that one task. So this was a small proof of concept that I created because that was how I used to work. Before we got agents, I was sitting and manually creating all of the context myself. And I always made it very focused. At that time, I was spending about $50 to $60 a month and I was constantly using AI. Then agents came around and my first bill was like insane. And so I decided to figure out if I could build out a system that will create a much more efficient context. Now with caching and all of the things that they have come up with, we're definitely getting to a point where things are manageable, but if you're not careful, this is still going to be expensive. Okay, let's see, what does it write here? But this will create issues to write examples. My text is small. It takes the full template and this same for big 2. So it has to have an understanding like this is a small prompt or context. No need for the template. Yes, yeah, absolutely right. So you need to have a decision process saying, well, am I using a template for this or does this actually work well for what I'm doing right now? And this is another thing where part of the inspiration for Wonop is, let me just try to do this and I can try to show you. Okay, that can install in the background while we do this. Right, but one of the inspirations for this was, for Wonop is that we have this TypeScript engine in the back which means that in principle, you could make runtimes for specifically complex tasks and say, well, okay, if I'm collecting specs, I need to follow a certain pattern and I don't need to have all the nonsense context around it. So you'll do these steps. For the agent invoking this, they just need to run a single command and this kicks off. So that was kind of the idea, that you get these very specialized workflows. And because it's TypeScript, the agent can self-improve and create new workflows. So this, mind you, this is a very old system I wrote last year in September, maybe. Oh, and we don't have any templates anymore. This should be templates, so why are they not showing up? Let's just ask Claude about this as well. This becomes a paradox because if it does all this, then by default it will take more tokens, but it removes the issue. All templates and context thing should happen on the system right logically. I'm not sure I'm entirely following you here. So the key idea, so there are a couple of ideas, right? So if you do the template, hopefully your template is made such that it is efficient in how many tokens it's creating. Secondly, if you do this well, you will only have a single turn. So consider the difference between multi-turn and single turn, right? So if you're having the multi-turn workflow, that will be way more token intensive than a single turn workflow. So that means that if you do a single turn to generate a TypeScript that does a specific workflow, then that's way more efficient than having multiple turns running each step one at a time. Does that make sense? All right, let's see what's happening here. That being said, optimizing the amount of tokens you're using is it's definitely not the easiest thing in the world. And I think if it was easy, I think both OpenAI and Anthropic would be massively profitable, which I think is far from the truth at this point. Okay, we don't need anything but a immediate workaround, so it's fine. Okay, cool. Now all our workflows show up. Right, so I have a few different workflows I used to use here, which is one for reviewing code, one for another one for reviewing code, one for writing Git commits, one for writing PR descriptions. And let's try to do this project requirement. So basically what this is a relatively simple template optimized to collect project requirements. Let's see, we should be able to just do like this. And you see it starts out with the template. So telling you what template are we using here and what is the purpose of this template, and then what input parameters are we doing. So for instance, we want language inside of this, and then it asks, define the main objective. Let's just, oh shoot, this is VI. Let me just quit this right away. Let's just do editor here. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so Ripple CLI calculator. Okay, and so what this template then does is, or what it ought to have done, I can see that I've broken things, is it should take turns asking you questions, but basically making sure that it just runs the smallest possible workflow it can do. And then once that workflow is done, it's meant to close down and just produce the one artifact that you want, namely the full requirements for this specific problem, right? And that's it. But I see there are some bugs in this. I haven't used this in a long time. I did play a bit around with it, extending it with TypeScript support and whatnot. And probably I have broken things in the process of doing that. So that is the infamous demo mode. You're trying to show something that you kind of don't maintain any longer, and everything is broken. Let's see where we are with merging things. So this is one of the things that I really love about my repository. So I have these policies, and they are helping me make sure that everything I'm doing is following specific policies. So for instance, we don't have any dead code. We also have one against replicated codes. LLMs have a terrible tendency to just copy what they've done previously and then do more of that. And these policies help making sure that you don't have that kind of slop in your code base. Let's see, I think we can quit this one. So how are we doing with our Opus integration? Did we actually start that? Right, so that was the... So Opus is being implemented now. This is another thing for the repository we're working in. So it's mandatory for the agent to always write requirements and ADRs and all of that. And I'm at a point now where I don't have to do any of this work any longer. I don't even need to request it. So that whole repository is built out around a set of playbooks that the agents have to follow. And that means that we automatically get the requirements generated. We automatically get ADRs and all of that. And then at some point, it's meant to stop and ask us to review that. And then we can review it and say, okay, this is fine or this is not fine. And then just move on from there. Nice. And oh wait, there's still something running here. Let's go and check GitLab and see what's going on. My Claude Encodex was finished. I tried Gemini. It broke my project. Yeah. I mean, you can nearly never put enough guardrails in place to make sure that these systems are behaving nicely, can you? So I have so many requirements on doing tests, on doing all sorts of stuff just to make sure that stuff doesn't break. And even so, it still happens. But I'm extremely pedantic about how things are being carried out inside of the repo. And so let me just try to show you something here, because I personally think it's really cool. So if we go to the repository here, basically we have agents.md. And so if we open that one up, it's not too long, but it's a bit long. But basically one of the things it gets is it should always follow a playbook. And so if there is no playbook, the playbook is to write a playbook for the task it's doing. And that's a guided process. So when it has to do a task for the first time, it's going through how to build a playbook, and it will ask me questions about what I'm actually trying to achieve, and then write out that playbook. And then for every piece of work we want to do, we have this progressive loading. It works kind of like skills, but it's automatic. So we'll have this index in the bottom of the repo, index.md. And so it's meant to read that and figure out, okay, where do I find the things that I want to do? And so you can see I have playbooks, and then I have policies. Playbooks make sure that we always do work exactly the same way we did it last time. And this is meant to enforce that patterns that we know to be working keeps on working. We keep on doing things the same way. We're not going to invent any new ways of implementing stuff. And then policies are there as a check. So we have these policies. If we open up this file, the policies are checking for all sorts of stuff, right? So we are checking, so we are having some cheap pre-flight checks. We are having some changed file coverage check, which means that if there is not tests covering up to 60% of the code, then there's no way this should go in. And I'm actually planning on increasing this to 90%. This will make my work a lot slower, but it will make that things are way better tested. And then we have a whole bunch of other things like dead code, dependency sync. We're checking if we are applying migrations in the correct order. So you are not allowed to edit previous migrations. So there is a check in here that will check if we're doing that. So that's migrations timestamp and migrations immutable. And all of these needs to pass before we get into CI. And so the agent is actually forced to do a whole bunch of things. We also have a no JavaScript policy, which I've been having to move a bit back on since I'm using JavaScript as the core engine inside of this workbench we are building out. But so that's a bit of an interesting one. But you see, it should reject anything that's not in marketing or POC. POC, we can do whatever we want, but marketing, not so much. Yes, it's like a guideline, but it is programmatically enforced, right? So we are having something that basically fails miserably if these things are not being followed. All right, let's check out where we were. So we're about to figure out if we're any closer to getting this merged. The downside to this is that CI takes a long time. It checks an awful lot of things. It's building an awful lot of things. And so basically, if you cannot reproduce a build in the CI, then it's just not going to pass. And if it doesn't pass, so we have these pre-flight policy checks. If we go in here, you'll see that it's actually checking all of these things. And it's checking for replicated code. It checks that everything is clean before we're committing. It's also checking the file size. This is another big one. We don't have any files that exceeds 1,500 lines. And so the reason for this is that these agents have a tendency to write monster files if there's no enforcement on it. Okay, we'll just let this work nice and slowly. Let's get back and check how we'd... Oh. Both retrospective subagent and fall just test gate before push. Yeah, just do that. Approve the two sub. Wait, I don't understand the question here. Retrospective subagent and... Do you want to close it? What is it actually asking here? Is it asking whether I want to kill the subagent? Ask it what you're saying. Say clearly. Okay, so it seems that all it was asking for was a authorization. So one of the things I've had with, in particular, Codex. Codex refuses to start a sub-agent unless I give it explicit permission. And I can't figure out whether this is something I've put in the repo somewhere or whether this is something inherent to Codex. And I think this is the same thing we're now experiencing with Claude, because it seemed like it was in doubt whether it could start two sub-agents. But it's starting them now, so never mind. Just let's get on with the work. Meanwhile, we have another ticket we need to add here. Could you create another ticket for moving packages out of examples, so they should be moved into their own repositories so we can publish them on GitHub and have other people contribute to them? No, it doesn't happen for me. It works just fine. Yeah, then it's probably something that I've ended up having in somewhere in the
I'll create a linear
context.
ticket for moving example packages into ST, a ND, a LONE repositories. I created one 318 for moving Wonop packages out of examples into ST, a ND, a LONE GitHub repositories. With migration planning, package templates, registry metadata.
So the voice synthesis doesn't know the word standalone. Interesting. So that's clearly something we also need to fix. Could you create another ticket for carefully reviewing the vocabulary of the voice synthesis for local voice synthesis using Kokora?
I'll create a linear ticket for reviewing the local voice vocabulary around Kokoro. I created one 319 for reviewing vocabulary and UX copy around local voices using Coco Row, including naming, settings copy, privacy and cost language, and error states.
Okay, we need another ticket, which is for indicating that the system agent is working. So right now, there's no indicator in the UI that the system agent is working, thinking, or anything like that. And so what we really want is something like a arc that's spinning around the call icon or something like that if it's thinking, just so we know that things are going on and it's not stuck.
I'll create a ticket for showing when the system agent is thinking or working. I created one 320 for showing a working or thinking indicator for the system agent, including chat, call UI tool, running, waiting, speaking, and idle states.
Okay, let's have a look here. What is this saying? So okay, so there is an issue here. Can I give this agent like a 3,000 page document and 100 documents properly written with everything, like fully detailed description of software, and it then goes and it does it in one go? I'm not sure what your question is here. Do you want it to write a 3,000 page document in one go, or do you want it to read one in one go, and do what exactly? I have all the document, but every agent or AI, it doesn't properly follow it and gives it out a shitty product at last. Yeah, so for solving that, what I have found really useful is using progressive loading. Right. So really what you want to do is you want to make it super easy for your agent to discover things. And so using progressive loading was basically what I showed you before with I have this index file. Well, you start out with the agents.md, right? And so inside the agents.md, somewhere it should be told that it needs to look up things using the index files. And let's see. So I have some basic requirements here. Let me just try to do this. So I have to go and check each thing and tell it to improve. Okay, let's try this out. So you see here, I have these things where it says start with index.md in the root of the repository, then load the nearest child index.md only when you enter that area, right? And so the key idea here is you want the agent to discover the smallest possible context it needs to accomplish the job. And so if that is context around building out or following a certain rules for doing things, then that's exactly what you need to do. And if you go back here, this is exactly what happens here. So inside of the repository, we have a requirement that all UIs need to be Wonop UI first. This is a rule that I'm actually deprecating, but you see that I did not tell the agent anywhere that it has to follow this. It just knows that. And so the way it does that is it looks, okay, this one is actually directly in the agents.md, but there's also a much more comprehensive document explaining these things. And so for all of the things that I want the agent to do, there is a very logical, easy to find path on how to do things. So for instance, writing a retrospective is a inherent part of the workflow as well, just as a task risk classification is. And so all of this is done with this idea of doing progressive loading, where if you look at the index.md again, right, it will start by looking at this one and then saying, well, which one of these ones are actually relevant to me? Am I doing a release? Then this is where I need to read next. And so it will look at this one and say, okay, now I'm reading index, release index. And so you can do this with a sub agent, get it to search the repository for all the right documents it needs to know in order to figure out what exactly should it know for the task at hand. And that makes that your context is super well managed. Does that make sense? I think all in all, I don't know how many lines of, let's try to do find playbooks, just to take one, and then do xargs. I think we need to do -0, and we need to do the file and vc-l. Oh, okay. So is it then --type maybe? Okay, let's just try to do something else then. Okay, and why didn't it add these ones to xargs? Okay, so you see, this is about 18,000 lines of context for the agent, which I think is maybe not quite 3,000 pages, but it's a very, very substantial amount of data. Okay, I'm glad it makes sense. But I think it has a limit of how much it can understand the context. After that, it starts to hallucinate. You're right. Yes, there are some limits, right? And this is exactly why we use a sub agent for searching, because basically we only want to find the 10 lines that matters for what it's doing. So if you have 18,000 lines, that's a big search task. And so what you do is you dispatch a sub agent saying, okay, this is the task I'm doing. You need to follow the index files, and for each of the index files, figure out what context is relevant, and then bring back the rules that are really important for me to follow. And so the sub agent goes ahead and it finds the relevant context and only brings that back, rather than giving you all 18,000 lines and putting that into context, because that would completely ruin everything for you. Let's see, was this merged? Nice. Okay. Let's see, was this clear to it? Wait, so is this also all merged? That went a lot faster than I actually expected it to, so I'm a bit skeptical whether it actually did the work. I haven't got the chance to push my project, and I have lost 3 days of work. Fuck you, Gemini. Yeah, that sounds really frustrating. I have changed the way that I work. I used to never commit until I had checked everything, and now I'm in the complete opposite end. I am committing and pushing all the time. So this is part of the policies. The agent needs to commit every 500 lines, and it needs to push. And so the reason for this is I don't want stuff like this to happen to me. It's just upsetting. And even though that code is cheap now and you can get it to rewrite it, getting it to rewrite the right thing is actually hard work. Okay. So this MR is in. And let's see. Not done. It's never run. Okay, but it's implemented everything. It claims. Okay. Interesting. Let's try this out. There should be an undo button for max 10 times so it stores all the code and work till 10, and user can go to any point in the time until then. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly why I'm committing all the time. That's to get that undo redo functionality, because I mean, there's been quite a few that has implemented something like this in their IDE, and it always felt very flaky and not very, very great. You could merge the What are you working on these days, Mem? And is Mem the right name, or is it Jian? Or am I mispronouncing it? So I think you showed me your agent orchestrator yesterday in Discord. Is it still what you're working on, or you're onto something else? I'm wondering, does Grok have a CLI? An auto subtitle generator for 3 months, and it's live too now. I'll not work on IDE because I bought it. Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes you need to work out what exactly is it worth spending your time on, and what is not. So what's the main application of your subtitle generator? Is that for live subtitles or captions in social media, or what do you have in mind? So it feels like we should implement support for Grok as well. I tried it out yesterday. It seems pretty nice, and one of the things I really liked was it was very good at analyzing my Twitter account. It's actually been the one that does the best job, and you would think that it should be the one that do the best job because it has all the data. It's for content creators, video subtitles, captions, simple, nothing more. Well, I don't think that's necessarily simple to do captions and do it well. I actually think that this is one of the things, for instance, with Restream, it's doing these live cuts and then publishing them. And I don't like the style of how it's doing the captions themselves. So actually doing great captions is not necessarily the easiest. Also getting them to appear at the right time. I found that if the video is long, what happens when you use Whisper at least is that as you get into the video, the timestamps are not quite matching the video always. So how do you buy Grok? I have a subscription. Do I need to buy Super Grok? I think you just, I mean, what I tried out yesterday was just going here, grok.com, right? And I haven't even gotten a subscription or anything, but that seems to work pretty well, and that's Super Grok. So But I am thinking of getting a subscription, maybe a cheap $30 a month subscription, so that I can integrate this into Wonop, and so we can have Gemini and Codex and Claude living all together. And then we can start doing some real cool stuff. So far, I only have Codex and Claude for Wonop. I think that the rest should be pretty easy to get to work once I have the basics running here. That's a good question. So from what I could read on Twitter, people are going mad about Grok, but that might not mean anything. What I did experience is that, at least for analyzing things related to Twitter, it's better than the other ones, simply because it has better data sources. It's a little bit like if I have to do deep research, I prefer Gemini over any of the others, simply because Google just have a better index of data to take from. All right, this is up running. Let's try it out. Gemini does good UI too. Yeah, I agree. And also, one of the things I've noticed is that Gemini is the only agent that my kid is actually using. So he loves Gemini because it's so easy to use, and he only uses the voice interface. Yeah, I also have the feeling that Gemini is using a cheaper model and not necessarily all that generous with context. The same for the integrated one in Google Search. So the AI replies you get in Google Search is actually real rubbish, and they can't be trusted at all. See, that's our Claude agent, our design bench. Let's just see, did we get a new? Yes, Opus Clips. Nice. Does it open? It does open. It came right here. So we need the API key. We don't need an organization. Let's get the API key. Yes, you can say that. Opus.clip. So let me show you here what it does. If I bring that down here. So basically, as soon as the stream ends, it will pull the latest video that I've made, and then it will take that and turn it into small clips. Now I've misconfigured it, so right now it's actually not working the way it should. But if you go into edit here, it basically auto-generates all of these clips where with all of the things we've been talking about. And so this is from the stream yesterday where it's doing something. So here it has not done a great job, but in some of the previous stuff I've done, it's actually done a pretty good job. And so one thing that's the problem here is I've done now 21 days of live streaming every day, or 22. This is the 22nd day. And the problem is that this now has so many clips that I'm completely lost. I'm not ready for this. There's so many clips to go through here, and I feel like I don't want to do that manually. And so really what I want to do is I want to create a user experience where my UI can be part of that, because mind you, what we're really trying to do here is we're trying to make a business operating system through agents. And this is not even your main app. No, exactly. So this and the other point here is to show that you can actually do the integrations, right? So you have this thing that's specific to your workflow. We want to make it super easy for you to integrate the things that you are using. So for instance, your caption app should be integrable into Wonop such that it just becomes a thing that you can use where you can ask the agent, hey, could you add captions to this thing? And what you want is, you don't want to have a bunch of text telling you that it's put captions on. You actually want to see the video right away without having to find it in all of this. Right? And so that's basically the problem we are trying to solve. Get the artifacts up in front of you first so you can see the work that was done and interact with it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's try this out. Let's try to refresh it. You hate me. All right. So why is nothing showing up here? Okay. Let's see. So let's get back here and tell it. I've worked for 3 months and worked really hard, and your UI is better, clean, mentalistically than mine. Yeah, I mean, look, don't beat yourself up over that. So it may be that I make this seem like it's super easy, but I've been working on various aspects on this for the past 6 to 7 months. And it's taken me a long time just to get to a point of what do I actually want to achieve here. Like, picking all of this out has been it's been a lot more work than what you think, right? Because you come and you see the stream, you see that I've been online 21 days building this, but the truth is, if you go through my repository, I have so much code that I've built out over time. So it's not that I just sat down and vibe coded this in one day, even if it might seem that way. Oh, nice. I like that. That looks absolutely amazing. This seems to be much more than just a Let me just bring that up on the screen so people can see this, because that looks amazing. Do you have, so one of the features that I love. Yeah, I thought you were joking. Don't worry about it. But this looks absolutely amazing. I think you have done a really good job here. So this is a nice and pretty clean UI that you're having. Have you... Do you have a text editor for this yet? That's one of the things that I love all the time, or love to use all the time. And by the way, just to be clear, Opus Clip is not something that I've made. That's a third party, but I think this looks really nice and clean, and like something that's actually worth using. Is it live yet? Let's check that out. Oh yeah, here it is. Let's have a look. This was my work for the last 3 days, and yes, I have a text editor. Proper. Nice. That looks amazing. Maybe we should do a live stream at some point where I integrate this into Wonop. Do you have an API that can be used? Like Open API or something like that? And also the pricing is sharp. I like that. Maybe 45 minutes. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, no, that's probably okay. $24. Let's try to. Let me see. What am I actually paying for Opus? I think I'm paying $15 a month or something like that, and then over the course of a year, it might actually be that I'm paying a bit more than that. It's definitely less than 25. Okay, cool. What about just a regular open API? Is that something you have? So open API with an API key? So I think I would love to try to integrate this into Wonop at some point, if that's something you would be up for. It does require that we have either MCP or Open API. But other than that, I mean, if you have that, I think it could be fun to integrate. Let's try it. Let's see. What are these videos? What do I have here? I think I already have captions in these ones. We're getting into a new era where No, I don't. That one doesn't have captions. And here we also have a whole bunch of things. So let's try one of these ones. The clip one is not there. Okay, let's just try to take. Let's go and have a look at where we are. You can see that I'm in good company. I have the morning. Okay, cool. Let's upload this one and see what happens. Auto detect, yes. Let's do that. Auto detect from video. No emojis, please. Generate subtitles. Let's. Yeah, no worries. I understand that things are work in progress. All right, let me just turn off the music. Let's go and have a look at where we are. You can see that I'm in good company. I have the morning maker. I have Mark. I have Tony Robbins, and I have levels. I sort. So it seems that they are slightly behind the subtitles. Can that be? Today that Daniel was posting this question. It is so hard to identify yourself now it's back. As a founder. All right, let's try to see what we can change here. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Can I upload my own font? When the business is booming, you feel like you're on top of the world. When it doesn't, you feel like you're a loser. I'm trying to fix this. Do you have any advice? I have trained Tony Robbins on his YouTube channel, and I want to get some advice on this, just to see what he says. Here's the thing. Your business is not your identity. Your worth isn't tied up. Okay, cool. And so I can edit the captions. Can I also edit the video by text? No, don't worry about it. But that's definitely a thing that I would love to have in a thing like this, that you can upload your own subtitle or your own font. Let's go and have a look at where we are. You can see that I'm in good company. I have the morning maker. I have Mark. I have Tony Robbins, and nice. I have levels. I saw today that Daniel was posting this. Cool. This looks really good, buddy. So once you have an API, why don't you just write me back and I'd love to make an integration of this. As you saw with Opus, it doesn't take the AI so long to actually do this. I think it's all getting a bit cramped on my small screen here. Let me just try to make this slightly wider. Oh, wait, what did I do now? Founder, when the business is booming, you feel like you're on top of the world. I think I destroyed something. Tony Robbins, and I have levels. I saw today that Daniel. Okay. It is so hard to identify your self-worth as. Not sure what I've done wrong here. Okay, now it's back to normal. But here, what's happening? What is happening? Yeah, okay, so this is a templates issue. Nonetheless, I think this is really cool. And so basically, one of the hypotheses of what I'm doing is that when when we have MCP for these kind of things, we do want the MCP to actually do all the editing, but we want to make it such that it's super easy to review what the agent has done. Delete the text and reload, and it works fine. Yeah, that was what I figured. So I tried that out as well. So I think that's really nice. When are you launching? Have you launched already? I mean, I can see you can sign up, but oh yes, you did, because I saw a product hunt thing on it. So you have launched this. All right, let's see if we fixed the issue. All right, there you go. Now all my clips are coming up. The UI is shit, but this is exactly why we are creating a UI bench as well, so we can fix that. I will fix the major issues and then release a PR. Nice. Oh, wait. That was not the right... Wait, what happened to Opus? Did that one move down here? There we go. There are all the clips. Clips. Okay, how does this work? Status. Okay, this is... The UI is definitely garbage here. No back button. So we definitely need to get our UI bench done. Because I've no idea how I get back to the list now. In fact, I'm not even sure what happens if I press transcript. Okay. Let's see. Let's get back here and just give it some feedback. But I really like your clean UI of the Opus clip. But Opus.clip is not mine. That's not me who created that one. That's just a tool that I'm using. So... So if we go back to this Opus.pro, that's not me who has done this. This is I think it's a venture-backed company. Like they probably have raised $1 gazillion and just building this one thing. If I've tried Remotion, yeah, I think I haven't tried it, but I did look at it at some point. So this is the open source thingy, isn't it? For, yeah. this is something that I want to integrate, and I also want to have integrated hyperframes. I think this is a good point to integrate these guys. I'm making a hyperframe type thingy, but more advanced. Oh, nice. But yeah, this is definitely something to integrate as well. All right. While it's doing this thing, I am just going to pop out for a quick break. I'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, ready to test this out. Let's kill the old version and start up the next one. Let's see if it did a better UI this time. Oh, nice. This already looks much more comprehensive. Let's have a look. Okay, still returns some errors, but at least we can see stuff. So I feel pretty confident that, oh, wait, you can't see anything. So I feel pretty confident that we'll be able to bring this over the finish line. Okay, so these are the projects it lists, and then inside of that, it's supposed to show the videos, but they don't really show up. Oh, my goodness. So the app or Opus returned more data than the app can handle at once. So I think one thing we will need to work on in the coming weeks is what does a good shared working experience look like when you're having agents and humans working together. So I think in general we should try to keep things minimalistic. Like agents don't need to be more than a widget, and then we need to be able to bring design benches in and things like this, but we need to make it such that it feels nice and is easy to work with. So basically less noise and a more refined user experience. I wondered if we fixed the issue with this. We had made some comments. I don't remember where we made them. I think we made them on the mobile version of this one. Yeah, we did. Let's try to see if that was fixed. Hey, could you address the annotations in the design bench?
I'll check the design bench annotations and try the supported update path again. I'll try a narrower file patch instead of a full write. Then refresh and resolve the annotations if it works. I need approval to patch the installed Design Bench app, shell HTML file, so I can apply the mobile menu changes.
I've approved.
I'll check whether the approved patch completed and verify the annotations. The approved patch still failed because this runs policy forbids fs.patch. So I can't directly modify that installed HTML. I'll try one more supported design bench route that avoids FILESYSTEM patching. I need approval for the design bench publish command to update the dashboard version through the supported app route.
Okay, I've approved everything that there is to approve. Try again, please.
I'll retry the direct app shell patch now that approvals are in place. The patch is still blocked by policy, even after approval. I'll use the Design Bench app command again, in case that permission path is now approved. I'm still blocked. The direct file patch is forbidden by policy, and the supported Design Bench publish command still crashes with the set timeout bug. I've already filed those as 1.312, 1.313, and 1.314, so the annotations cannot be applied from here until one of those paths is fixed.
Okay, that's absolutely amazing. So it still has the same issues, so we didn't fix those ones yet, but if you look here in the logs in the site, you get a very comprehensive idea of what's going on and what's working, what isn't, and all of that. And all in all, I think this serves as a pretty good log of what the agent has been up to over time. It will be improved more, and hopefully we will get to a point where we'll have nice condensed versions up here in the memory. But until then, I think the next thing we want to do is get this design bench working nicely. Let's check if our Opus updates are in, and let's see. Yeah, they're in. So let's kill this one and try again. Okay, so there's still a issue here. right, let's see. It is now auto testing using the remote control. So clips are still not showing up, but we can see that it's busy. The agent is busy trying things here. All right, we are getting to the end of this live stream with a few minutes left to spare. I think we have still not landed this, so that will just have to work over the weekend. And then we will be back Monday, hopefully. And on Monday, we will be working on making the system more solid and getting to the point where I can start training out on the rig behind me while doing real work and not having to touch the computer. That's the goal here. And we want it so that it's nice and easy to understand what's going on, nice and easy to interact with, but mostly it should be nice and easy for the agent to work in. So I hope you have enjoyed this live stream. If you have, give it a like and let me know in the comments if there's anything particular you'd like to see in some of the next live streams. And until then, have a great